God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter, is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Findley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
But he will not in this episode.
No, but fate will.
Fate will.
But
yes.
fate will get Walter Gilmartin. Karma will get Walter Gilmartin.
Yes.
Welcome. This is episode 41 for us.
Yes, episode 41.
And this is a podcast where we go over the 1970s.
Are we sure?
Not at all.
Are we absolutely sure?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Not in the slightest.
Right. Okay.
This is God'll Get You for That, Walter, a podcast where we discuss the hit 70s sitcom Maude. And today we're going. Oh well, I am Tom Catt.
Yeah.
Are
you?
No.
Are you absolutely sure?
I'm never sure. Not anymore.
No,
Never
am I.
sure. Not anymore.
And
And
am
this
I.
is my fabulous co-host, the delicious Toni Homeperm.
Tony with an I.
Tony with an I.
Yes.
And today we're going over season 2, episode 17, The Wallet.
The Wallet.
With guest stars Arlene Galanka as Norma. And, you know,
Norma.
the usual suspects. You know,
Yes.
Conrad Bain, Arthur, Esther Roll, Florida, Adrienne Barbeau, Carol. You know,
Yes.
the regular cast.
No Philip this episode.
No Philip.
We are Philipless.
The director for this episode is Hal Cooper, and the writer was Max Hodge. And, of course, Maude was created by Norman Lear.
Yes.
So, let's get into it. What'd you think of the episode?
This was a cute episode.
I
This was a cute episode.
love this episode.
Yes.
It's definitely
Yes.
one of my favorites.
And we'll get to like my favorite, probably our favorite.
Probably our
part
favorite part.
later in the episode. But we open. We're in the living room, and Florida is singing.
Florida's singing "I Feel Pretty." Have
Yes.
you ever sang that song before?
To myself. Yes.
You look in the mirror.
Countless of times. Yes.
You look in the mirror. I am pretty. I am witty, and I am very. Gay.
I mean. If you haven't done that, are you really gay?
Nope.
Are you really? If you haven't done it, as a gay man, if you have
a
not
lie.
done that,
It's a
are
lie.
you really gay? Either you've done it or you're lying that you've done it.
I have
You
never
haven't
done it, but one of my favorite things to sing was Anita's last line in "A Boy Like That."
Okay.
That was one of my favorite parts to sing.
Okay. Well,
Because it was the only one that I was able to.
as gay men and theater queens, I think it just goes with
It goes with the territory.
With the territory,
Comes with
yes.
the territory. So, Florida is singing "I Feel Pretty" while reading a copy of Vogue.
Vogue.
And, you know, she's saying...
This is before Vogue was, Madonna Vogue.
Yes, much before Madonna became
before.
Vogue.
They did not Vogue. They
didn't Vogue in the 70s.
Vogue
Or
was
they
just-
did, and it wasn't just well known yet.
I don't think.
I wonder, when did the ballroom scene start? Had to have been late
70s.
late 70s, early
Late-
60s.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, late
yeah.
70s, early 80s. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, actually, it might have been earlier than that because you think about the movie The Queen with Crystal LaBeija was like 1969.
Yeah.
So it really did start in the early 70s, but in the early 70s they weren't voguing.
They weren't voguing. It wasn't.
But they were doing like the catwalk stuff. And
Yes.
I mean, I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that like the
we
know as like the voguing, like from Madonna's Vogue video,
Yes.
that did not start till later on.
It didn't become in
ballroom.
vogue.
Yes.
It didn't become in vogue until Madonna did it. And, necessary...
They'll be here all week, folks.
Necessary queer cinema and queer movies are The Queen and also Paris is Burning. I cannot recommend Paris is Burning enough. So Florida is singing "I Feel Pretty" and witty and fat.
And fat, yeah.
So at that point, I think Carol comes in and... Carol and Florida are rapping about beauty standards
Yes.
and, how these women in the Vogue magazines are like, it's I think it's
$1,000
$1,000 worth of dress over 10 pounds of woman.
Yes. And Florida mentions that, that these men don't know what they're missing because when
Where there is meat, there's heat. And she's not wrong.
No.
She's not wrong.
No, there's nothing wrong with a little junk.
As a very Zoftig woman myself, I
Yes.
understand what she's saying.
Are we Zoftig or are we thick?
I'm going to go with Zoftig.
Okay.
Just because it sounds more me.
Okay.
I've also heard Rubenesque, but I
Rubenesque.
would never call myself Rubenesque.
No.
So Florida says that, if she tried to put any of that on, it would be a defamation of skinniness.
Yes.
So lots of,
Yeah. So Carol leaves. She's on her way out.
Yeah,
Carol
she's on her
didn't
way
get
out the
much.
She didn't get. I mean, I will say this: she did have one good scene with Maude.
Yes.
And that was when she came back from the errands that she was running.
Yes. And can we say how smart she looked? She was
Very
in, like,
smart.
A sort of a business.
A very businesswoman's jacket.
Yeah.
She was very elegantly dressed.
Yes.
I always loved when they dressed Carol up. They did her very well. Mm-hmm. And when they dressed Carol down, boy, they made those boobs very prominent.
Yes, they did.
And yeah.
So
I'm sure she helped many a youth.
I'm sure.
Many a youth, I'm sure.
Not me, but
no, not me.
That's around that time. Was it around the same? Was it around the same time? It might have been a little later on. The show The Man from Atlantis with Patrick Duffy. And every scene he was in that little yellow Speedo. And
every day you wanted
glued to that television. Oh, let me tell you, I was glued to that television.
I think I've mentioned it in previous episodes. I never really had like a television star that I was attracted to. There was that one movie with the guy with the young like teenager who turned into a mermaid.
Okay.
It was a Disney TV movie.
I know what you're talking
and
about.
that was that was my first thing where I was like, oh, okay. All right, and I think maybe like 11, 12 years old at the time, and I'm rewatching this, and I'm like,
sweet mystery of life, at last I found you.
And if you see pictures of him now, I have no idea. I genuinely have no idea because now I need to look.
Now we need to know.
Now we need to know.
But I think that's quite a common occurrence for a lot of I think for all kids really. Is probably where you get your first teen crush is somebody on TV or a movie.
The 13th year.
Mm-hmm.
The 13th year with what is the child's name? Is a 1999 comedy drama directed by Dwayne Dunham and starring Ches Starbuck.
Never heard of him. Did he ever do anything else?
He did some movies.
Couldn't have been much. He was no Zac Efron, that's for sure.
No, but if you look at him now, it's quite startling. Hold on, Ches Starbuck.
Did he?
He has an Instagram because, of course, he does.
He's not all that anymore.
I mean, give me 2 seconds and I'll show you.
All right, this needs to be verified by the judges.
By the judges.
Okay. Oh, he's like a real bear now. No wonder that is your type. That's your type.
That's my type.
Because I have learned you have a type, and I know that was when
that had to have been a few years ago.
Okay.
But
because he's sort of like half twink, half bear.
He's a twunk. There. He's a twunk in that point.
Okay.
But I mean, also
now
like,
complete bear lumberjack. He's even wearing flannel.
And again, that is a me type.
Is he gay or?
I don't know. I don't believe he is. I think he has a wife and child.
Okay.
Because of course he does.
Of course he does.
But that was sort of him and Chris O'Donnell in the Batman and Robin movies.
Oh, where they had nipples on their uniforms.
Of course.
Why not?
So yes, Carol's in a very smart suit, and I always love how they did her hair.
Yes,
I always
very cute hair.
Very cute hairstyle.
So Florida leaves. Carol leaves.
Carol leaves.
Florida continues to sing.
Florida continues to sing.
I feel pretty.
And she's looking in the mirror and making
And she's basically voguing, although she's posing.
Doing these modeling poses, like smiling and like primping her hair and doing very cute things in front of the mirror.
Yes.
And I think
Maude comes in unbeknownst
enters.
to Florida because Florida is consumed with her reflection.
And Maude didn't make a sound.
No. Very un-Maude-like.
Very uncharacteristic of her.
Yes, for her to come in without, belting something out.
And of course, she notices Florida.
What Florida's doing, yes.
And she says, Florida, I'll be the first one to say that fluff is beautiful, but you're never going to make Lena Horne eat her heart out.
No.
So Maude is preparing to go to a funeral. She's going to Carl Haggerty's funeral.
Yes, he was a co-worker. They also mentioned something. They were talking about dinner, and Maude said she had it taken care of because she got a pound of ground chuck and 3 boxes of Hamburger Helper.
Yes. I was always fascinated by that line because when did Hamburger Helper come into
that right around that time in the early 70s.
instant meals?
Yes, they had the Hamburger Helper, and then they had the god awful Tuna Helper. Yeah, I mean, I think they still have Hamburger Helper. I don't think they make Tuna Helper anymore, unless maybe like in the Midwest you can still find it because I think that's more of like a Midwestern kind of a thing.
Anecdotal.
Yeah.
There was an episode of Gumball.
Of what?
I don't know if you watch cartoons.
No.
So there was an episode of Gumball, and it was an episode where the mom, Nicole, was going grocery shopping. The whole family was going out grocery shopping. And there was this very specific product that she was looking for, and it was corned beef.
Yeah, corned beef.
And there was because the episode, I think, focused on pinching the pennies and being very thrifty with your money.
Okay.
She knew exactly where this 25-cent corned beef was.
Okay.
And she finds it under a rack.
Okay.
In a supermarket. And I have to find it for you because it's a very, very astute observation on the current world view of what's happening in America.
Okay.
And, I love cartoons that are like that, especially because, when I grew up, it was Bugs Bunny, and those were very political heavy. Some of them were very politically heavy. And the fact that a new cartoon is doing something that is very much reminiscent of that.
Okay.
I have to find that scene for you. It's very good. But when you said that about finding a specific product in a certain area, it made me think of that moment.
Okay.
And of course, 25-cent corned beef.
25-cent corned beef. That's pretty cheap for corned beef.
I would say so.
Very cheap.
So it made me think of that.
Very, very
strongly
cheap.
recommend it. I strongly recommend Gumball.
Gumball.
Especially if you're into cartoons.
And what is that on Cartoon Network?
Yes, it's on Cartoon Network.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
So Maude says that she's going to Carl Haggerty's funeral. It's a business funeral.
Business funeral, and she's bringing the brownies.
She is bringing brownies because
to put the fun in funeral.
I think it was Carl Haggerty's wife who said bring either Irish coffee or the brownies.
The brownies, yes.
And she said Father Monahan has a sweet tooth and a taste for the gravy.
Yes.
So, she also found in the Bohack's parking lot a wallet that belonged to Walter Gilmartin. I think it's at that point Florida goes, into the kitchen to get the...
Well, she mentions about that his wife looks like a depressed rabbit.
Yes, they mentioned Walter Gilmartin's wife looked like Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Bugs Bunny was the joke. She has pointed hair and buck teeth, and she looks like a depressed rabbit.
Yes.
And I think it's at that point Maude goes into the kitchen, not Florida.
Maude, because she goes to make the phone. Is she making the phone call in the kitchen?
No, she's not making the phone. She's going to prepare dinner.
She's going to prepare dinner.
I think she's going to prepare it, and then Florida's going to cook it.
Okay.
So at that point, Walter and Arthur enter. And why do you look confused?
Because I'm trying to remember where did she actually call the wife to let her know she had the wallet?
She came, I think, back outside. And she was trying on those fancy hats.
Okay, because I'm trying to remember. I don't remember her being on the phone and telling the wife she had the wallet.
She did after Walter, I think. No. Walter confronted Maude and said, "Listen, you're going to call her and tell her not to pick up the wallet."
So did she already let her know or before she even came home?
Nope.
I'm trying to figure that out.
Nope, that wasn't.
All right. Let me not mess up the timeline. So Maude went into the kitchen.
Maude goes into the kitchen.
Florida was still out in the living room, and that's when Arthur and Walter enter in their matching jogging suits.
The ambiguously gay duo of the suburbs.
Yes. It's the same exact suit, but in different colors. I don't remember which one had which color. One was reddish and one was bluish.
Yes, they were
funny.
very...
He doesn't look bluish. And yellow, but they each had the same yellow ascots. I was like, what?
Yellow ascots
I
of
mean,
all things.
I mean, those outfits were so gay.
Yeah, they were.
They were so gay. Like, if you told me,
There
they're a gay couple, I'm like, well, of course they are. They're wearing matching jogging outfits.
I think in season 4 or 5, there's an episode where Walter and Arthur go up to a lodge because they usually spend like a weekend at a lodge. I think up in like Vermont or Maine or someplace like away from Tuckahoe.
Right.
And Walter wakes up from a nightmare where he kisses Arthur.
Oh my Lord.
And it's a very gay heavy episode where there's a lot of illusion. And like, you know, you have because they've been friends for so long, you know, they talk about their friendship and you know, Maude was saying to Vivian, like, American men are not allowed to express their emotions, so they're not allowed to tell their male friends how much they love them. So it's very much an of the times episode, but, you know, even today there are a lot of men out there who have a very difficult time accepting the fact that they can love another man without there being any type of sexual undertones.
True. Very true.
But we'll get to that episode.
We'll save because there's tons we could discuss about that. But let's save it for that.
Correct. Save it for that
Let's
episode.
save it for that episode.
So they enter breathless, saying how Florida, we must have been out running for like hours.
Yeah.
And Florida's like, you only been gone for 3 minutes.
Yeah. So.
And Arthur's like, 6 miles in 3 minutes must have been a world record. To which Florida quips, yeah, for telling little white lies, which I always appreciated.
And she tells them that that Maude's going to a funeral.
Yep.
And I believe that's about when Arthur found Mr.
Gilmartin's wallet. Yep. And we find out that Mr. Gilmartin is
a womanizer, philanderer.
Quite the adulterer.
Yes, there's even a whole limerick.
Remarkable fellow Gilmartin, from bedroom to bedroom he's dartin'. The claims that he claimeth would startle Joe Namath. His love life is quite far from Spartan. So
and they also remark about, I think one of them remarked about him
Walter
being married. That he's married
Walter
to
said,
Bugs Bunny. Was Walter?
Yeah, Walter was the one that said, oh, he's the new member at our club, the one who's married to Bugs Bunny.
To Bugs Bunny, yes.
So Arthur asks a very poignant question, which brings up an interesting point, Walter. What's his wallet doing on your bar?
Right.
And then that's when Maude enters and says, caught red-handed.
Caught red-handed.
I'm having a mad tempestuous affair with a man. And then she does this like sort of Groucho Marx thing.
Yeah, and Walter's like, well, thank goodness, because I was afraid
you were a pickpocket. So at that point, I think, you know, Maude is trying on these very fancy hats.
Right.
And she's trying to find some, and she's in this beautiful, like, deep blue jacket dress with her leggings on, and she's actually in, well, I would not consider them high heels, but she's in heels. Very elegantly dressed, and she's putting on, like, different colored hats. Like, one has red cherries on it, and one has, you know, a specific type of feather on it.
Yes.
And she's just wearing these different cloche style.
Yes.
And they're very beautiful.
Yeah, they were beautiful hats.
And she kept on, like, you know, as she was talking with Arthur and Walter, she's putting on the hats and checking herself out.
Right. Yes, and she couldn't wear the cherries because they wouldn't go with the brownies.
With the brownies.
Which I understand completely.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that does make sense.
You got to make sure the fruit matches the dessert.
Absolutely.
Or the hat matches the dessert.
Absolutely.
So...
Walter...
That's when Maude says, I found his wallet and I'm going to call his wife.
Yes.
And Arthur and Walter are just like, you're going to call his wife?
Yeah.
That was, I think...
Yes,
I think Maude had already called. That's right. Maude had already called.
Didn't she say that because she said that she's going to come to get the wallet.
Yes, she's going to come to get the wallet.
Yes.
And then that's when Maude, like, afterwards, Maude turns to Walter and Arthur and says, I already called his wife. She's going to come by to pick it up.
Right.
And Walter and Arthur are incensed.
Aghast. They're aghast, yes.
Like, you can't have a woman pick up, you can't have a wife pick up the husband's wallet.
Yes. And Arthur says how, what was his wife who passed away's name?
Agnes.
Agnes never looked in his wallet, and he never looked in her drawers.
Yep, because that's where a man's privacy is in his wallet, a woman's privacy is in her drawers.
Yes. And Maude continues to try on the hats, And and Walter says that it's a matter of principle.
Yes.
To not look, in your
And
husband's wallet.
Maud calls them out on it because it's like, you guys are just covering up for a man who's cheating on his wife.
Right, right.
And Arthur, I think, said something to the effect of, Arthur said something to the effect of, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like winks.
Yeah.
And Maud shoots back. It was probably one of my favorite facial expressions. She's like, I always know what you mean, Arthur.
Yes.
That's one of the problems that we have in our relationship.
Right. And she is now like, well, I have nothing to hide. And she's showing them like what's in her
rummage through my purse.
Yes.
She dumps out the purse and everything.
Yes,
and then that's when Walter starts.
Arthur finds the bill from Bloomingdale's.
Walter finds the bill from Bloomingdale's and says, "Well, what's this?"
Yes.
And Maud's like, "Don't change the subject."
Yes.
And snatches the receipt away.
Yes.
So,
and she's telling them that you two are or something protecting
an
this guy,
adulterer
Gil
protecting
Martin.
someone who's cheating on his wife.
Right.
And she looks in the mirror and she says, "How about this?" Oh yes, it's does this look too Protestant for a Catholic funeral?
Yes.
No, it's perfect. It says,
Yes.
"I care deeply, but I'm not a relative."
Yes.
And it was a beautiful violet-colored hat, matched the outfit and the cloak.
Yes.
And it had this beautiful. I cannot think of the name of the bird, but it had like some either quail feathers or just long pointed feathers, spotted feathers.
Yes. It was very chic.
Very chic.
So now Walter decides he's going to put his foot down.
Yep.
He yells at Maude to call, Gil Martin's wife and, tell him that, make something up, that she can't come and get the wallet.
Yes.
Because, it's that whole thing of like, the boys club. They've got to stick together.
They have to stick together and protect their own.
Protect each other, even though...
So Walter turns to Arthur and says, "See what happens when you put your foot down?" and nods like aggressively.
Yeah.
And Maude lovingly picks up the phone
Yes.
and says, "Hello? Oh, yeah, this is Maude again.
Yes.
I just heard the most wonderful thing fascinating news about your husband. Remarkable fellow Gil Martin. From bedroom to bedroom, he's darting." And Walter screams, "Maude!"
Yes.
Takes the phone away from Maude and says, "I'm so sorry, Mrs." The tone, the time.
Yes.
What was the time? 3:15?
Something like that. Yes, that's back when they actually had a number you could dial to tell you the exact time.
No, I mean now we have all of this technology at our disposal.
That's probably something young people wouldn't have no concept
they wouldn't
of that.
Understand
That there was a number you called on a landline.
Of all things,
Of
a
all
landline. A landline.
To get the
of all
time.
things.
I don't know what. Just recently, I posted something on Facebook about a stupid call that we got, and somebody was like, "You have a landline?"
I mean, nobody really does. I mean, there are people out there that do have landlines, yes, but as telephone operators go, there are no more operators.
I don't think so.
There are no more operators, and it's cheaper to get your landline removed. The same thing with cable these days.
Yeah.
So many people are doing away with cable because you just have your streaming services.
Right. Very true.
So yeah, it's anecdotal again. One day I would have loved to have performed the musical Bells Are Ringing. The bells are, but you can't. You can't do a modern version of The Bells Are Ringing because it's all about telephone operators.
Oh.
It's a love story about telephone operators. So unless you want to do a period piece on stage, it would
have to be.
And trying to find switchboards and trying to find all the props and whatnot, very complicated. So there are just some musicals you cannot do today.
They could do it. I mean, they do period pieces all the time.
True, but I mean, finding all of those pieces, they'd have to be made.
They would have to be made.
They'd have to be made, professionally made.
So then Maude, she gets back at Walter by telling her own Findlay limerick.
There once was a man named Findlay, whose brain, like his legs, was spindly. I love it.
Oh.
So, I think at that point, Maude goes into the kitchen to get the brownies, and she says, "I can't go to the funeral empty-handed."
Right.
So she goes, and then Walter starts humming 3 cheers for the red, white, and blue. You know, da da da
Yes,
da da da.
yes.
And while Walter is singing that, Arthur's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And Arthur's like, "I'm covering for you." Because they found...
Yes, because Arthur was checking the wallet
Mm-hmm.
to see if there was anything incriminating so he could remove it.
And there was an apartment rental.
Yes, a receipt for an apartment in New York City.
Under the name Walter Smith.
Yes.
So...
how coincidental.
Arthur takes that out, and, they're still doing the da-da-da-da-da-da. And then I think at that point, Walter takes the receipt and puts it in his wallet.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because at first, Arthur finds the receipt, they're humming the tune, and then Arthur hums the tune, and Walter puts the receipt in his wallet.
Right.
And then at that point,
Maude
comes
back
out.
in.
Maude comes back out into the living room.
I have something about, she asked him, does every man have something to hide?
Yes, she really asks that. Does
Yes.
every man have something to hide? And then I do not know why, but I think at that point, Arthur and Walter leave.
Yes. Yes, I don't remember where they were going.
I don't know where they were. I think they were just going back out for a run. Or they were going to go to Arthur's house
Or
for
something.
to that effect.
Yeah.
And at that point, Maude...
And Walter tells Maude to have a nice funeral.
Yes. And that he put his wallet next to Walter Gilmartin's in the table drawer.
No, he did not. He did not.
Didn't?
He
Say
didn't
that.
because he didn't put it in. No, he didn't put it. He did not put it. He didn't put Gilmartin's in the drawer because what happened is Maude, she takes Gilmartin's wallet and she goes to put it in the drawer, and that's when she sees.
And that's when she sees Walter's
wallet. And now it's like she's like,
If every man has something to hide.
Yeah, it's like she's had no desire to ever look in Walter's wallet, but now that the point has come up that he doesn't want her to look in his wallet, now
She gonna look in it.
She really wants to look.
Gonna look in it.
In the wallet. Yes.
So
first, I think she grabbed it, but then she closed the drawer and she closed it on her hand.
That was too funny.
And then she opens it up again and she grabs the wallet, and of course that's when Carol comes
enters,
surprising her.
And Maude spins around
Yeah.
and says, "Carol, don't you ever knock before you enter the house."
Right? Why is she gonna knock? She
And
lives there.
Carol's like, "In my own home."
Right.
Like
She's like, why are you so jumpy?
I so appreciate Adrienne Barbeau in the role of Carol because she played such a straight character, but she played it so brilliantly. Like, I wish like hell they could have nominated her for an Emmy.
Yeah.
I do.
So Maude, she walked away from that little dresser where they had everything.
Yes.
And Carol sees something on the floor.
Yep.
And she picks it up and she says, "Who's Walter Smith?"
Yep.
And Maude grabs it and she's like, "Carol, it's not what you're thinking."
And Carol, this is not what you think, and I resent the fact that it's crossing your mind.
Yeah.
And Carol's like, it's not crossing my mind, and Maude shouts, "Well, then stop it from crossing mine."
Yes. And she exclaims, "Walter's a philanderer."
She flips out, and she goes into this really fast-paced, that limerick again. And she's like, "Oh, and they tried to throw me off the scent. A remarkable fellow Gilmartin. From bedroom to bedroom he's darting. And Ivan and Boski and something, and Flasher and Dancer and Vixen."
Yes.
And Carol's like, "I'm sure there's nothing to be alarmed about. Like,
Right.
don't be over-dramatic.
Over-dramatic.
Don't over-dramatize."
Yes. And that's exactly what Maude does.
Of course. And as a matter of fact, Carol was asking questions, and Maude was just like, "Carol, children are supposed to be seen and not heard."
Yes. And Carol is trying to tell Maude, she says, you have to trust Walter. She says he's the most
faithful husband in the world.
In the world, right.
Which is funny considering how in a few episodes prior, there was the episode where Carol saw Walter with the young woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But he wasn't doing anything.
He wasn't doing anything
then. So he did prove himself. So he
Yes.
has a good track record.
He has a good track record.
And Maude she's going to find out who she is.
Yup. She's going to find out who she is. And then she
gonna
goes to the
find out who
door
she is.
and turns dramatically and
Yes.
says, Me over dramatized. And storms out of the house.
Yes, she immediately has like stepped into the role of like a character actress from the 40s.
Oh my God, a very Betty Davis,
Yes.
Tallulah Bankhead,
Yes.
Norma Shearer, very like Scarlet Woman.
I have to think that when that was happening in the show, I mean, B. Arthur, she must have been eating that up to get to.
I think chewing the scenery. She was devouring the scenery.
You could see it, how much she was enjoying doing those scenes.
Because when B started training, she trained with her and Elaine Stritch have a very similar origin story, where they both, learned being an actress by studying other actresses.
Right.
Like Elaine studied Ethel Merman,
Right.
B. Arthur studied Tallulah Bankhead.
Right.
And they would sometimes on tour with different shows, they would like meet in passing with these people. And they just sort of picked up things from these stage actresses. And, Maude being this sort of vehicle for B. Arthur, like it really was a vehicle for her because it was her solo show. I mean, yes, she had an ensemble cast, but she was the star of the show. She got top billing. So she was able to do whatever she wanted.
Right.
And I'm sure she was having the time of her life, especially when she gets to play those like really juicy, meaty scenes.
Yes.
Which just happens to be the next scene after commercial.
Yeah, so he goes to commercial. Then we come back. Maude is outside she's at the door of an apartment. The apartment
In New York City.
that belongs to Walter Smith. And she rings the doorbell.
And she hears the tender voice of Arlene Galanka.
Yes.
Who is playing Norma.
Yes.
And, me and Tony looked up her IMDb, and she has a very storied history, like playing in a lot of 70s sitcoms.
And
a lot of 70s and a lot of 80s stuff as well.
Big shoe.
Yeah.
A really big shoe.
A really big shoe.
A really big shoe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, good Lord above.
But All in the Family, Mary Tyler Moore, MASH.
Car 54, where are you? I'm surprised WKRP in Cincinnati wasn't in there.
I know there was just so many.
Taxi.
Airport 77.
Airport 77. She wasn't in Welcome Back, Kotter, although
No.
I don't know who she could have played.
I don't know.
As you said, All in the
Family. So many shows.
So many shows, and her name is Arlene.
Taxi.
We said
Taxi,
that.
yes.
We said
Did we say
taxi.
Taxi?
We did say Taxi.
I didn't think we did.
No, we did. I literally just said Taxi.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she was in a lot of 70s and 80s
And she was
shows.
never like a regular on any one particular show.
No, but she still worked pretty consistently.
But you always like knew who you recognized her.
Yeah.
For being
she was actually in 2 episodes of Maude.
She was
Maybelle in one, and she was Norma in.
I'm assuming Maybelle is late. I think that was later in 75.
Yeah, 75.
So, but apparently she was Norman Lear had her in a few things, so I'm assuming he liked working with her.
Yes.
So, but yeah, if you
she's a very coquettish character actress.
Yes. If you look her up on IMDb,
the last thing she did was in 2005, and that was The King of Queens.
Yes, and sadly she passed away
last year.
Just last year,
May 13th of last year.
So. But she had a long
history in the Hollywood industry.
Yes, she did.
So
Maude hears her voice and she's like,
wouldn't you know, even her voice is pretty.
Even her voice is pretty.
And it's one of the things that I loved about this episode was just the dynamic between the two characters. Because you have this sweet, angelic Sandra Dee type character.
Yeah.
And then you have Arlene Galanka as the sweet, innocent Norma.
Yes.
And then you have B. Arthur as...
Yeah.
She even said salt and pepper head. And, she's very throatily voiced, and it's just such a beautiful comedy dynamic.
And it's funny because Maude is acting like she's and actually she when and Arlene Galanka's character, Norma, actually says to her by the door, who is it? She says, the injured party.
It's the injured party. How the hell do I know? This is my first time.
But she's acting just like one of these, like one of the actresses in that movie, The Women.
Another queer cinema everyone should watch is
Absolutely.
The Women. With Joan Crawford, Roz Russell, Norma Shearer. Oh my God, I'm trying to think of Paulette Goddard. Just a really stellar cast of women.
Now, was that like the first movie to ever have an all-female cast? Because you never see a man in that movie.
Well, that's how it was written.
Yeah.
It was written by Claire Booth Luce. And she wrote it so that there were no men in the cast.
Right.
The only quote-unquote male character is the cutout of a male bull during the fashion show.
Oh.
That was it. And it was supposed to be like Ferdinand the Bull almost, where they just used that was the only instance of male in the entire movie. Really beautifully done movie. They tried to remake it in 2003.
Yeah, did they?
It bombed.
I'm sure
it's
it
so
did.
bombed.
I can't imagine.
It's so bombed.
I can't imagine translating that
They
into
had
modern times.
The unfortunate thing is it's a stage play.
Yeah.
And they did it on Broadway, and Isaac Mizrahi did the costumes for it, and it starred Cynthia Nixon, Kristen Johnson, I think also Rue McClanahan was in The Women on Broadway.
Oh.
She played the Comtesse de Love.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think of like other. Jennifer Tilly was the Jennifer Tilly, Jennifer Coolidge, Cynthia Nixon, Rue McClanahan, like A plus cast.
Right.
And it was so beautifully done. You can find it on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
It was such a beautifully done show. Like, and the costumes were gorgeous. But Cynthia Nixon played a very airy Mary Haynes, Mrs. Haynes, a very airy Mrs. Haynes. Like, she always... It was almost like she was impersonating Billy Burke as Glinda.
Oh, jeez.
But, I mean, Jennifer Tilly as the Joan Crawford part. I'm trying to remember. Crystal Allen. Like, Jennifer Tilly as Crystal Allen, beautifully done. Jennifer Coolidge as the consistently pregnant... oh, God, I can't remember her name.
But it was the pregnant character.
It was the pregnant character. And just... Oh my God, I cannot speak highly enough of that, like, show. It's a beautifully done play. It's a beautifully written piece. Highly recommend. I actually wanted to do it, because again, I want to produce my own shows at some point. I wanted to do The Women just with drag queens in the cast.
That would be great.
And I think it would be, it would go over so fabulously.
It would. Yes.
It would just have to be cast properly, because again, it's all women.
Yes.
So...
But now Maude, she's acting like one of those characters.
Yes, the fallen woman. The fallen woman who's been done wrong.
But the funny thing is, like, Norma's basically sort of, she's just sort of a little bit ditzy.
Just a little.
So,
little
and very modern. So it was kind of like, it was an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah, very interesting dichotomy.
See that. Oh. So, Norma, she opens the door and she says, you better come in.
Are you? You better.
Yeah.
Like, because you have Norma who's just like, are you? Like, again, sweet voice, saccharinely sweet voice.
Yeah.
And then, of course, B. Arthur with her very bass baritone voice.
Yes.
And, Maude enters and, she sits down on the futon and
immediately jumps up.
Jumps up and says, huh!
Yeah. Because that's where they, futon.
That's where they...
They futon on the futon.
They futon on the futon.
And Norma tells Maude that, she's getting ready.
For what?
For what?
And Norma goes, to go out. And Maude's like, you make house calls also?
Yes.
I love this scene so much.
And she tells her she's not going to be over dramatic. She's not going to beg.
I'm not going to be Joan Crawford pleading with Sandra to tell her to leave Walter Pinchel alone. No, that's not my style. I'm an old hand at this game, toots.
Right. And of course, She immediately does.
She immediately does that. And she says, oh, Norma, you're so pretty. Oh, you can have any man you want. Please give me back my husband. And Norma turns to Maude and says, you know, if you put this much into your love life, you wouldn't be in this situation, now would you?
Yeah.
And at that moment, Maude listens intently to her words, but before Norma has a moment to say anything else, Maude screams, time!
Yeah.
And Norma's saying how, like...
He's not worth it.
He's not worth it. He says that you're frigid. Yeah. And, you know, at that point, Norma says to Maude, your husband is no great shakes anyway.
Yeah.
And Maude pauses and says, oh, that's sick. Oh, that's really sick. I mean, to talk about the man that you share. And, you know, Maude goes into...
We also have to point out that Norma had this cute little collection of wigs.
Yes, she did. She had a blonde wig, a brunette wig, and a redhead wig.
Yes, she had a nice little collection of wigs.
I mean, very much a drag queen, but also a lady of the evening.
Yes.
So, you know, Maude goes...
She says, did he tell you I was
Did he really
frigid?
tell you I was frigid? And says, you know, you may be a flashy blonde, brunette, and redhead.
And she says, I give him love.
Yes, I give him more love and more tenderness and more affection. And Norma's like, I know, so do I. And then Maude says, I know.
Yeah, they're both crying. And now Norma confesses to Maude. She says she's never told anyone this, not even her own therapist.
Not even her own analyst.
Her analyst.
Because that's what they used to, I think that's what they used to call them. They used to call them
analysts,
not therapists.
Analyst.
And we come to find out he's
cheating on me too.
And then at that point, Maude comforts Norma, coddling her, cradling her, says, oh, Norma, Norma. And of course, the audience is losing it.
Yes.
The audience is losing their minds.
Yes.
And Maude's like, come now, dry those pretty eyes.
She's telling her, I have a daughter your age.
I have a daughter just about your age.
You know, you're a pretty girl. Keep your chin up.
Norma. My, what a pretty name. Because at first she says, Norma.
Yes, pretty
They're
name.
always called Norma. That's why I've always hated the name Norma.
Yes. What a pretty name.
So again, just flipping the switch because,
That's what she does.
That's what Maude does. Nowadays, that would be considered bipolar disorder.
Yeah. Yeah. And she tells Norma, don't worry about Walter.
Fate will get it. Will get Walter. That's me, fate.
She says, I'll take care of Walter.
And, you know, Maude goes to the door and Norma says, oh, thank you, Mrs. Gilmartin. And there's a pause.
Yes.
And Maude stops. And her face breaks the audience.
Yeah.
And the laughter subsides and she says, and to think I gave up a funeral for this. One of the beautiful things I loved about B. Arthur playing Maude was that she knew how to work a line.
Her timing. She
knew how to milk a line for all it was worth.
Yes.
And she had those brilliant facial expressions. Just, you know, she knew how to do it. As a matter of fact, there was an interview that she did with the Television Academy. The Television and Film Academy. And when they were talking about how she, you know, did the character of Maude, she would say, like, because of my training, I knew how to work a line. Because she used to work with Sid Caesar. And they would have, like, a bit of a comedy act. And, like, she always knew how to deliver a line because Sid taught her how to deliver it. And there would be those, you know, long dramatic pauses met with that, like, deadpan stare. Just...
One of the best times she used that, it's that episode of The Golden Girls where the young guy asks Blanche out. And Blanche says, you know, Dirk's
nearly 5 years younger than I am. And Bee's just
she's
holding
just
her
sitting
head.
there with that look.
Just staring at her, lips pursed, eyebrows raised, and says, in what, Blanche? Dog years?
Yes.
Just comedy gold that woman was.
So unbelievably funny.
So we come back from another commercial.
Yes.
And this time Maude enters while Walter is reading the paper. She comes back to the Findlay home and she's like, Walter, attack me. Yeah. Attack me, beat me, Walter.
And she gives him the umbrella. And Walter's like, what if it rains?
So stupid. So stupid. They did give him some good lines.
Yes.
They gave him some great dialogue. So she said she went to the Haggerty funeral and She said she had 3 Irish coffees and confessed to Father Monahan.
3 times, didn't she? Didn't she
Yep,
confess
3 times.
3 times. And
he said that he loved her hat.
Yes,
that was such a great line. He loved my hat.
Loved the hat. So Maude tells Walter that she saw the receipt.
Yep, and then she went to that woman in New York.
She confronted the girl.
Yep.
She's saying to Walter, he's being so understanding.
Yep.
But then Walter reveals that he knew.
He knew
everything.
When Carol told
Carol told him that what she did.
Yep, and Maude bit his neck.
Yeah.
She bit his neck.
Yes, and she was saying that she learned her lesson, and Walter throws it back at her. He's like, "What lesson? You didn't
learn your lesson.
You didn't learn her lesson.
You didn't learn nothing."
Yeah. And Walter's he's saying he has nothing to hide.
Yeah.
And he storms off to I believe that's the den.
They were talking about. This was the overarching theme of the episode: how a man's wallet is his privacy.
Right. And,
are there any objects that you own that you do not want your husband to rummage through for whatever reason?
No, I don't have anything like that.
You wouldn't let him rummage through your phone?
Yeah, he could rummage through it. There's nothing, I got nothing to hide.
I do.
So.
I'm not gonna front.
I don't have anything to hide. There's nothing on my phone.
But that's
dating apps or anything like that.
But that's what I'm saying. We're dealing with people that are in their 40s and not in their late 50s and early 60s.
And your point is?
Nothing, mother. Nothing, my dear sweet mother.
It's not that unbelievable.
You wanted my mother for sex games. No, by today's standards, a phone would be considered a piece of someone's privacy. And that, if you have a partner, would you feel comfortable with them rummaging through your phone?
Right.
And looking for potential. And that's all really a question of trust. This episode deals very heavily with a husband and wife's trust in each other.
Very true.
But also it's important to point out that during the 70s, 80s, 60s, 50s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, throughout all of these years, men have an inherentness to cheat.
Oh, yeah.
Men have this inherent desire to go out and, especially in this age where, you have Grindr and Tinder and Hinge. I was going to say Tinge.
Tinge.
That's the newest dating app, Tinge.
We better copyright that quick.
We better copyright it quick. So you have, Tinder, Hinge, Zeus, Plenty of Fish. You have all of these dating apps and whatnot.
No, 90% of
It's
those.
really unfortunate. Match.com, because everybody's looking for love, and they've turned the dating industry.
Christian Mingle.
I have opinions. Farmers Market. I can't. I absolutely cannot. So, with all of these dating apps readily available, it has made it very easy to step out on your marriage or on your relationship.
Well, isn't there's that other one. What is it? Ashley Madison?
Yes,
that
Ashley Madison.
Specifically
for people that
are cheating.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It's really, it's really unfortunate. It's really, really, really unfortunate. Because fidelity is... Infidelity is just one of those things that can really ruin a marriage. But there are also people out there that engage in polyamory and open relationships and whatnot. So it's just as monogamy sort of falls to the wayside, dating has become very challenging in the current day and age. But years ago, when you didn't know where your husband or wife were, you really just sort of had to have a lot of trust in them. And, even look at the Golden Girls. Stanley cheated on Dorothy how many times over the course of their relationship? Right. So it stands to reason, no pun intended, that that cheating was was much more easier to do years ago than it is to do today.
I think it's just
it's just easy to do in general. It's easy to step out on your relationship.
Yeah, I think it's just as easy. I don't think there's any difference.
This episode does deal heavily with
trust,
privacy, trust, fidelity, infidelity, stepping out of your marriage and being a nosy person. So it's just it's very interesting to sort of have these again modern conversations through. where we're discussing a 50-year-old episode and still having these same conversations today where we discuss infidelity.
Yes. So Walter had stormed into the den, and Maude has his wallet, and she's saying, I have, just this empty wallet. And then she's opening it up.
She starts rummaging through it, and she says, Walter, this is just a piece of leather. And
then she stops.
She stops, and she finds this secret compartment.
Yes, the secret compartment.
And she just has this look on her face like the cat who ate the canary.
Yes.
And she pulls away, and Walter's like, don't look through that secret compartment.
Yes.
And he races out to see her holding the wallet, and she says, too late, Findlay. And she pulls out a napkin, a cocktail doily.
Yes.
And she says, good luck in, what was the war? I don't think it was, was it mentioned?
No, I don't think it was.
I think it was good luck PFC Findlay, signed Jane Russell. And it was her lipstick on a cocktail doily.
On a cocktail doily. And she's laughing.
And she says...
she was laughing the whole time she was reading it.
Yep. She was laughing the whole time she was reading it.
And apparently Walter has hidden this for 29
years.
Yes.
So,
Maude's like, well, why were you hiding it? He says that he was embarrassed.
Yep.
At first he was hiding it because...
It was a good luck charm, and he desired Jane Russell.
Yes.
And Jane Russell, even until her last days on Earth, was very attractive.
Yeah.
She was very good looking.
Yeah. Well, of course, now, and you're talking 29 years ago.
29 years ago.
Everybody was way more attractive 29 years ago.
I was a child 29 years ago.
And your point is?
Mother, there is a God, and he is very capable of getting you.
Oh, God.
So, at that point, he's saying that it was embarrassing, and, that...
He doesn't want... He asks her not to tell anyone.
And that's when Maude says, well, you can tell me, and now I need to tell you something.
Right.
And she says, I'll keep this a secret if you keep this a secret.
Right.
And she's, pulling her little ascot away, and she's, showing off a little scar that she has. And, he's like, that's the scar from the firecracker. She's like, not a firecracker. Billy Goodfield.
Billy Goodfield.
It was at the Totem Pole Lodge in Norumbega Lake in Massachusetts. Springfield, Massachusetts. And, they were dancing, and it was, I think, some type of cotillion or something of equal or better value.
And did he dip her?
He dipped her during a song by Vaughn Monroe. Because Vaughn Monroe was playing. Have you ever heard Vaughn Monroe live?
No.
Not live, but have you heard him ever?
No.
Very fascinating performer.
Yeah.
His voice really does sound like that.
Oh.
Because Maude was impersonating it.
Yeah.
Racing with the moon, higher than the midnight...
Oh, maybe that's a song you could do.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, B. Arthur did it.
And if B did it, then so does Tom.
If B did it, then you should do it.
Oh, my God. We're sidetracking for a little bit. We're going to go on a tangent.
Side note here.
Me and Tony and a few other delicious people, Stella Virgin, Lady Andromeda, Oliver Bliss, we had a drag show this past weekend. And, because me and Tony have done a number of things together as Dorothy and Sophia, and we also have this podcast about B. Arthur and Rue McClanahan and others from, people will always associate me with B. Arthur, not to mention the fact that I've been impersonating B. Arthur since 2015.
Right.
And, there were people that would stop me and say, hello, Dorothy. How are you, Dorothy? And I'm like, thanks. I look nothing like B tonight, but all right, I'll take that compliment.
Hey.
And then there was another guy who comes to me, and we exchange Instagrams, and he's shuffling through, and he goes, wow, you just have that one character, don't you? And I'm like, well, I have others, but when you're this tall and you have a voice like this, it sort of falls into the fold that you have to impersonate Dorothy. You have to impersonate B. Arthur.
You must.
So it was fascinating.
It's in the legal.
It's in the contract.
It's in the contract.
It's all in the contract
that you signed.
So, yes, Billy dips her and...
He tried to kiss her.
Tried kissing her on the neck.
Yes.
And...
His braces...
His braces scratched her.
Scratched her, yes.
Scratched her, and he tried to reach for the moon. So, that's where Walter's like, well, what is this supposed to do for me? And Maude's like, well, it's a very silly, embarrassing bit of my history.
Personal.
And, Walter's like, how can you compare a movie star to a kid with pimples and acne?
Right.
And, they have a little bit of an argument.
They're going back and forth.
And it fades to black.
Yes.
It fades to black.
Now, when we come back for the
epilogue.
Walter is in the living room reading the paper.
Yep. And
there's a big box.
Big box that says, I think, fragile on it.
Yes.
It says fragile on it.
Big, huge, tall box in the living room.
Yep. And Maude enters to see the big package. And, Walter's like, oh, it's Arthur's. They brought it.
Yes.
They brought it over here. It's a box for Arthur.
Right,
Don't go through it. It's very
personal.
Very personal.
Yes. And Maude says she wouldn't look at it for all the tea in China. So, of course, Walter leaves. So you know
that Maude is... And the way that she stared at the package, like, I'm going to open you.
I mean...
So she starts tearing at the tape, and she looks away as she opens it, because she's looking for Walter.
Right.
And Arthur springs out of the box.
Pops up out of the box. Hello, Maude.
Hello, Maude. And she's like, what a dirty, rotten trick. I hate both of you. I hate you both. And then that's where it fades to black. Arthur and Walter are laughing, and Maude is, pissed off.
Yes, because they knew,
They knew.
She was going to look.
They definitely knew.
So I guess that was how Walter wanted to really teach her a lesson.
Yes. Yes, I believe that to be true. And that's the end.
And that was the end.
We thank you so much for listening to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
We do.
If you would like to follow us, you can on all forms of social media.
You must.
YouTube is God'll Get You for That, Walter.
Yes.
Instagram is Finley's Friendly Appliances. Facebook is God'll Get You for That, Walter. If you would like to follow me, you can at That Tomcat on all forms of social media. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. It's That Tomcat. Where can they find you?
Toni Homeperm, and of course it's Tony with an I. And there's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.
Oh, you're on Twitter now.
I tweet.
Ooh, she's on Twitter now.
She tweets now.
She's on the Twitter.
Tweedly-dee-dee-dee.
I hate you.
Tweedly-dee-dee-dee. Remember, that was the theme song for my Talking Tony show.
Yes, it was. It was. She rocks in the treetop all day long. Hopping and a bopping and a singing that song.
Yes.
We thank you so much for listening, and you will hear us again on another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter. Bye, guys.
Good night.